right, everyone. This is Ryan Chenoweth, and I have Sachi Williamson here with me as well. I'm a data science consultant at Northwest Cadence, and Sachi is kind of in the DevOps space.
Yep. Yeah, and we're excited to have this webcast for you this morning. It's hopefully going to be really interesting and a little bit fun too.
Yeah, and so this is the ABCs of AI. We're just going to kind of go over basic overview of AI and we're going to touch on the Microsoft AI platform and kind of go through their different pillars of that, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to be a good mix of talking about what AI is and why it's useful for enterprises, and we're also going to go through demos so that you can see the Microsoft platform in action.
So I'm sure we kind of use this slide a lot, but everything is changing. Everyone's collecting data, they're using data, and it just keeps on growing. The size of people's data is actually becoming a problem. People have too much. Not to say that everyone has a ton of data. Sometimes you have just a little. Doesn't mean it's not as valuable. And the structure of the data is changing, where before you kind of just saw relational databases, you now have a lot of unstructured and semi-structured data, whether it comes from log files or XML files, where people are now using things like Hadoop or Azure Data Lake Analytics to scan over millions of files and try to find new information that might help drive business. And that's really what it comes down to, is AI is part of this digital transformation to help your business grow and kind of modernize your business.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting about this slide, Ryan, is that also that enterprises themselves inherently collect a ton of data because they have so many users. You have thousands and thousands of users that are connected with different devices and different apps that they use, and so it's probably time that they start using all that data for predicting and for being able to better understand their business.
Yeah, so again, we have data, and as a lot of people are, they probably have static reports. They have Excel spreadsheets, or maybe they're in Power BI or even Tableau. And when you get to like the Power BI Tableau stage is when you can really slice and dice your data with filters, and I click on one visual and it filters another visual, and you can really gain some cool insights, and you see what happened and why it happened, things like that. And then you start to do some more artificial intelligence or machine learning type things where you want to say what will happen. Is this person going to buy my product or not? Or in your case, DevOps in software, how severe is this bug, or when am I going to complete this backlog item?
Right, exactly.
Things like that, and being able to make those predictions. But you still need someone to look at a report and say, okay, that's what's going to happen, and then they'll go make a decision off that. The ideal situation is where you have these systems that are automated. They make predictions and then automatically take action for you.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting too is that we kind of start from a progression of being more reactive to making decisions to being more proactive. So that's kind of an overarching theme for maybe all of our webcasts, that you start at the bottom with static reports, looking at data and having to react to it, but then finally, by having all of these tools, then you can be more proactive to figure out what you should do before it happens.
Exactly. And so we kind of want to talk about AI, like what is artificial intelligence? I see people all the time in the news they just throw out the words artificial intelligence, and what does that mean, I guess, right?
Exactly, and I think there's definitely a misconception about AI being, the pop culture kind of definition of it. So let's just kind of start from ground zero with what AI is. Now, AI itself, artificial intelligence, has been around forever. It starts even back to 1308, when the Ultimate General Art, it was a book that someone wrote to kind of explain mechanical means to create new knowledge. Then you can, just continue starting really far back in the timeline for AI. Gulliver's Travels, I don't know if you've heard of that book, from 1766, it was called The Engine. That was kind of this mechanical robot kind of thing.
Is this
on
like
an
the
island.
clay sculpture that you were telling me
Kind
about?
of.
Like he believes he brought like a clay sculpture to life, or?
That was another kind of piece of AI, but this is just just a book that was written. It's
Oh, I
kind of
got
crazy
you.
to think it was so far back. You even have Tesla, in 1898, I think, he created a first radio-controlled boat.
Oh.
So AI spans really far back, but one really important one I want to mention though is in 1950, excuse me, the Turing test came out. Have you seen The Imitation Game, Ryan?
I have. It's a really great movie.
Yeah, that
right?
movie. Yeah, it's really interesting. So if you're kind of curious about AI, definitely check out The Imitation Game because it talks about the Turing test, which is kind of the idea was trying to see if computers can be intelligent. So that kind of kicked off AI with a lot of the machine learning algorithms that are in place. And so machine learning falls within that kind of umbrella of artificial intelligence, with that you use algorithms to kind of make predictions, and actually you could almost say that it's implementing AI even further with, of course, with computers being more powerful, and then that kind of goes into deep learning, which was kind of in the 2010s when computers are a lot faster. You can, with cloud, you can now have as much data as you want, as many cores, and it makes it faster and cheaper and more powerful.
Yeah, that deep learning it's really easy now
Yeah.
with the cloud where you see this explosion of people trying to use all types of neural networks to identify images, or in cancer research, it's really popular too, trying to identify like tumors. And
totally.
The cloud really enables that, or even just the fact that people can own giant machines.
Yeah,
it doesn't even have to be on the cloud. You can go out and spend a bunch of money on a giant
yeah, totally.
machine.
So you can kind of think of these as concentric circles. So artificial intelligence, then machine learning, then deep learning.
That's a pretty cool word, concentric.
Yeah, I practiced.
So here we kind of have a more general, slide that says, what is artificial intelligence? And it's really just the ability for a machine to make decisions about dynamic problems. And that's just what it is you never know what the machine's going to get, how it should respond, but that's how you kind of program it. And you did a great job before. And then you did mention the pop culture of AI.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So we have Star Wars.
Yeah, so general AI you think of as what AI is, but it's C-3PO, it's the Terminator, machines that do everything, that are like us.
They're pretty much humans. They have thoughts and feelings.
Right, yeah.
And that's not really in the near future.
So we're not really there yet, but narrow AI is definitely something that you probably experience every day. If you use something like Google Translate, or you have face recognition, or you make other predictions, anything that kind of is a specific task that technology uses, there are a lot of options that exist out there.
Yeah. Steve, or the co-founder and strategist, he I think he stole this from someone, but it's a nice little one tagline. I don't know who came up with it, but he says like AI is kind of the ability for like a machine to do something a human can do in like 10 seconds or less.
Oh, yeah.
So like an example would be like a machine learning thing where it's like recommendations. Well, I could make a recommendation. It might take me days or hours or something, but a machine can do that really fast. Or even if it's me identifying what's in an image, a machine being able to do that, where that's a really good, I thought that was kind of a cool example or cool definition of it.
No, totally. So I think that's kind of important to remember, that narrow AI is kind of where we're focused more, and I think what's important is that it's a lot easier for enterprises to take advantage of.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's the key. And then we have machine learning, that next step in. I think the big thing here is when I develop software, or actually I don't develop software, other people do. I focus on the analytics, but they develop a solution for a very fixed problem. Amazon, they had their thing to buy books. That was easy. That was a very fixed problem. But when you need machine learning, or even artificial intelligence in that case, it's the dynamic problem where the answer is always changing, where it needs past experience, past information to make better decisions going into the future. And while like machine learning and artificial intelligence and even deep learning, they're also similar. I think machine learning, it's important to kind of remember it's those those basic statistical, mathematical type algorithms that are kind of encompassed in machine learning. And then again, we go into deep learning, which is that next layer of the umbrella. I don't know exactly how you said it. Concentric circle.
Yes.
There we go. Where it's kind of revolving around these neural networks, and the explosion around that is really because of these giant machines that we're able to have fast iterations. It doesn't take us years to train a neural network anymore, and the fact that we can now have many layers in neural networks, where before were, you know, at their foundation, it used to be kind of like, oh, you could get lucky with one or two, and that's kind of the compute you had. But now you see companies like Microsoft and Google putting out neural networks with 100+ layers, and that's pretty amazing.
And I think, just also for some background, since I wasn't at first familiar with what neural networks are, just because it sounds like some very confusing term, is the idea that it's kind of modeled after, you know, all of the connections in the brain just being really complex. Is that?
Yeah, there's kind of each layer you can kind of think of as different neuron. I think that's the right word
yes,
with your brain,
I
neurons,
think so.
Right? Yeah, so they're kind of modeled after that and that thought process. And at each layer, there's different transformations and different weights.
Sure.
I don't claim to be an expert at the intricacies of neural networks, but I do like using them and implementing them. So
yeah, so neural networks based off of the brain, but more, I don't know, discrete or...
Yeah, you'll see these are really popular with any type of text analysis or photo, video, that type of stuff. And they're applicable to more than just that, but those are really popular areas. So again, why artificial intelligence? Whether you're an enterprise, a startup, or whatever, I know we're focusing on enterprises here, but why should we, or why should you or we participate in this AI explosion? And I guess the fact is that everyone else is, right? You're going to get left behind if you don't.
Yeah, I mean, even just from the statistic, 40% of new enterprise apps are going to include AI by 2021. You know, that's a big statistic, and there are a ton of other statistics out there as well.
Yeah, and I think one thing to point out here, and it's on the slide, is it's not going to eliminate, it might eliminate jobs, but it'll actually create new jobs, and it could augment people's workflows. So, for example, we worked with a company recently where they had to manually write a lot of proposals, and just simply augmenting their work process to prioritize the ones that they should work on. That's a huge money saver. They're just prioritizing. They're not doing anything else, but just...
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I think another example too probably could be like a customer service desk. You know, having you know, those really trivial tasks that people on support teams have to sometimes do, instead of having to, you know, manually put in different tasks and things like that, support tickets, then they can do something better, you know, or more helpful with their jobs when they're, I mean, not saying that's not, but being able to have time for other things that instead of just...
Yeah, as a help desk employee, I don't want to have to just restart everyone's computer over and over. If I can do something else, do something I like more, then that'd be great.
Yeah, like entering tickets into a system.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of an overview of AI, I guess, and how do you kind of do this, or what are some good examples of AI I think we should probably talk about? And we can kind of just go through the Microsoft AI platform. So here we kind of have talked about some examples where what's the best way to get home from work, or how old do I look? You see here as he shaves his beard, he gets older. So maybe he should keep his beard. I don't know. It depends on what you're trying to get.
So these are examples of the Microsoft AI platform at work.
Yeah, these are open to anyone. Well, actually, I'll open up my web browser and we can show some of these. They're called Microsoft Cognitive Services, but these are just some examples. So, for example, there's text analytics saying, oh, I love this presentation, it's very useful. That's a pretty good sentiment. Hopefully you guys think about that about this webcast. Or, you know, I hate this, it was useless. Having knowing what someone means when they type or even say something, where you can, I say something out loud, maybe it translates to text.
Right.
You analyze that text and then respond.
Yeah, it could be like, an automated message. Oh, sorry you hated this webcast. What can we do to make it better? Or glad you found it useful.
And so the last two slides were kind of examples of the cognitive services, but here's, I believe, all of them. They might have been updated. I did make this slide a week or two ago, so they could have added a new one. I'm not sure. But there's 5 different categories. There's the vision, speech, language, knowledge, and search ones. And they're pretty cool. I think we should probably just
let's
take a
try
look.
it.
Okay. So let's bring this over. So here we have an emotion API. There's a ton of examples here.
Yeah, and the cool part, these are from the Azure website, right?
Yeah, so I go to, this is the URL up here. I just Google or Bing, whatever your preference is, Microsoft Cognitive Services, and they kind of just pop up. And so like here, there's this. They recognize the faces and say, oh, this person's 99% happy, and pretty much 0 on everything else. But you can even upload an image of your own. I have a picture of Sachi here.
Don't do mine.
So we upload it, and there we go. And so we see, oh no, you're pretty happy here.
I guess so.
Or we can even do, we can have Steve, we mentioned earlier. There we go. He's pretty happy too.
Yeah, it's interesting to see those scores.
Yeah, and it just comes back in a pretty simple JSON type format. You can spin these up in any Azure subscription. If you don't have one, they do give you $200 free in Azure for a month, which is actually a pretty decent sized chunk for a month of messing around with analytics.
So these are just all built-in APIs. You can just kind of implement them in your own application, so you don't have to build them yourself.
Yeah. So that's exactly it. Is take advantage of these. They're built and supported by Microsoft, so that's really nice.
Yeah. You don't have to be a data scientist, maybe.
This one is kind of cool. It takes in 2 pictures and tells you, are they the same person? So I see this. We do have an example later with Uber where drivers have to take a picture and then they have to verify that it's them when they drive, so they have to take a picture each time. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit more, but even something like an automated receptionist where you have an iPad and they take a picture of you and they can verify, hey, is this Ryan or is this Sachi? And then it goes into a calendar, say, oh, who are they here to see, and things like that. That's something there. So I actually don't know if these 2 are the same person, but we can, again, upload a picture of Sachi here. And when I submit it, it should load her picture. Oh, looks like you're not this person, Sachi.
Good.
Or we can even load me. We can do that. And kind of play around. It's kind of cool to see this.
We might be the same.
5%. And then there's Steve. It looks like I've uploaded this today, and again, happy. And here's a text analytics one we were talking about. One example of this could be if you have a bot on your website or some application, you can analyze each text, and as soon as people start getting angry, you go call a manager or something.
Yeah.
Another one would be help desk tickets. How angry is this person about whatever issue they're having?
Right. Maybe it needs to be escalated to someone else, depending on their mood.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of cool to play around with these. You can go right in here and look at all of them. There's a ton. So next is, if we go back to our slides, bot framework. So that's kind of the next step into the Microsoft AI platform. Is this bot? You'll see them on a lot of.
Right.
I see it on my insurance website. I know that, where, hey, how can I help you? Or I think even like my internet provider has one, and things like that, where they could help you through it, and it's pretty nice.
Yeah, so the bot framework itself is a Microsoft operated service that allows you to create a bot, which, kind of like Ryan was saying, it's just the idea of having something that's conversational to your end users so that you can get something done based on the conversation with them. One of the really nice things that they have with bot framework that you can use, and you can see this in the slide, is called Lewis, and that makes the bot framework really helpful with it's called natural language processing.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea is how do you process the natural language, and Lewis stands for language understanding. Oh, I don't remember. I need to look up the IMS, but language understanding is kind of what it is.
I think it might be intelligent service.
Intelligent. There we go.
Yes.
I knew I had you on the forecast or something.
Yes. So bot framework is just a great way to, and the bot framework itself is actually really just something, again, that's kind of already, you could say, half-baked. So you can just put it into your application. With Lewis, you can use that as well. And both of these tools and a bunch of their other services, as you've noticed, are already pre-made, so you don't have to really be an expert in data science to use these.
Yeah.
You can be just a developer.
Exactly, a developer, and you just use those APIs. We're actually in the process of building one here that we're going to show off, but I just want to point something to this real quick.
Yeah, let's show that one.
So on GitHub, there's actually some example code.
Yeah.
If you need some help getting started, it's the github.com whack Microsoft whack AzureBot.
Yeah, there are actually a bunch of, I looked in the bot directory on I think it's dev.botframework.com, and this was one of the bots listed. And the idea with this bot is that you can plug it into, I think you can plug it into Teams or Slack or Skype, and it will help you start or stop VMs in Azure so far. So so if you scroll down to that image, what it does is you have a conversation again with the bot, and you say, hey, I want to log in. You'll say which subscription you want to log in with, list the VMs, start and stop them, just through a chat with the bot.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is really interesting because this is another idea of a bot that you could use in an enterprise without necessarily being a support ticket kind of thing. This could be something like helping users spin up or spin down their infrastructure, or you could use it for customer service, or you could even use it for project managers if they need to, I don't know, prioritize their work or triage everything. They can work with a bot to perform these tasks that they don't have to spend time on.
Yeah, not kind of like how we mentioned earlier, not necessarily replacing anyone, but augmenting your work.
Yeah, definitely.
Making it easier, making your job easier for you.
Yeah, and I think the bot framework is really cool.
And then we do have a use case for this, where I think you actually found this one. I believe that they're an online retailer, or maybe they're both.
Yeah, I mean, they're just kind of a large company that is a retailer that sells electronics, and so they use bot framework and Lewis to kind of just help guide the customers based on their online buying guide. And so it's kind of like it's probably something like a recommendations engine, similar, using these different tools with a conversation.
Okay, that's actually pretty cool. And I think next, are we doing a bot demo?
Sure, yeah.
So the one we are currently creating, right, is in our it's in our Visual Studio.
Yeah, so we have a bot that we're just kind of playing around with for now that's in VSTS, and what we can do is we should be able to go to, if you go ahead and go to work at the top, and then if we go to, if you click on the NWC help bot up there, then Jacob on our team implemented this help bot that will kind of help us find videos that we recorded internally for just based on the topic that we're looking for. So it says, just say, how do I create work? And this is using the bot framework and Lewis so that it's interpreting what Ryan says as an utterance to then interpret that and put back results, right?
Okay, so here I see we asked that, and it kind of pulled in a response, and it tries to find videos for us to watch as well. So even like if I did like, tell me about releases.
Yeah.
Is that one?
Oh, tell me about releases.
Oh yeah. Tell me about.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might respond with the video. I don't know. Oh.
Yep, looks like
there
it
we go.
does.
Oh,
And so,
it has Steve's picture.
yeah, and so the idea with this bot framework is that it's got, or with Lewis, it's got the utterance, which is tell me about releases, and then it actually extracts this little releases part and then reacts appropriately given that releases. Kind of that's the main noun of the question that you're asking.
Okay, yeah, and so it just incorporates right into everything.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
This is just like an extension on our VSTS account.
Yeah, and it's really easy to implement bot framework, at least from what I understand with how he created this, and then you can make it really dynamic, which is again kind of the idea of AI, right? Having machines have dynamic responses.
Yeah, and so even if like, so what if I ask something totally off topic? I wonder, tell me about the Seahawks game.
I hope it doesn't have a response for that.
I wouldn't be surprised if Jacob put that in.
Oh, it picked up extensions.
Okay.
Well, maybe that one is still a work in progress.
So yeah, but this gets logged, right? So you can go back through and do more analytics on what people ask.
Right. Yeah, and so with all the utterances that are asked with Lewis, then it will kind of come back with a dashboard.
Yeah. So in Lewis, it's Lewis. The bot, whatever code you do, it has a Lewis account, lewis.ai,
Yep.
And it has like an overview, and it kind of tells you what are people asking. Looks like Jacob has typed in test quite a bit when he's testing, Power BI, knowledge bases, DevOps, code, or admin. So it's kind of nice. And
yeah,
then,
and that's just something that's built in too, right? So
yeah,
all you have to do is you just implement Lewis. It will give you this dashboard, and then you can work off of that.
And then we have these intent where kind of different categories where you can kind of go in and see different utterances, like what do I expect someone to ask,
right?
In kind of different ways. And so
and those nouns are the entities.
Exactly.
That's the word I was looking for.
Entities. Oh yeah. Yes. So we come in here and these are the entities.
Yeah, so that kind of just gives you a good overview of what the bot framework looks like, and hopefully that gives you an idea of how you could use it as at an enterprise, whether it be customer service or, project management or any other tasks. And it's really easy to implement, and it's based off of cognitive services as well, right?
Oh yeah, and so this is kind of what I was mentioning earlier, where it logs. So we might be able to find the Seahawks one, but it says how confident it is that it was this intent, and do you want to add that to your list of kind of things that it can ask, and so it can be smart, and then you can go and see, one, how are people using my bot? How can I make it better? How much is it being used? Is it worth even having? Things like that.
Yeah, that's kind of like the being proactive, being able to understand what people are asking.
And then we do have, I'm not signed in, I think a Q&A maker. So this is Jacob, he made a Q&A. So it basically an API where you give it a list of questions and answers, and it just generates the bot. So if it does some fuzzy matching to where if you ask a question and it's similar enough to a question in the list, it'll give you a response.
Oh, cool.
And so you can see that in the bot when it gives me a response. That's what it is. And actually, it looks like I don't have access to Jacob's Q&A thing. So,
but it's still a cool idea that you can plug in all these different pieces to kind of better use AI in your applications.
Exactly. So that's kind of the bot, right? It's super flexible and easy.
Yeah.
Let's kind of, I guess, get back to our PowerPoint here.
Yep.
The Microsoft Cognitive Toolkit, formerly known as CNTK. It's a open source toolkit to train deep learning algorithms. It's supported on Linux and Windows operating system. You'll notice here I have kind of Azure Notebooks highlighted. If I bring over here, this is actually the AI platform page for Microsoft. It's the cognitive services, bot platform, deep learning, and data analytics platform.
Right.
Kind of all together, that's AI. But here is the Azure Notebooks, and there's a ton of examples of the cognitive toolkit. In here, I just kind of cloned a tutorials library, and you can go in, and they do actually a really great job at explaining what each step is. It's written in Python. You'll notice here it's a Jupyter notebook, and super cool. They just publish these for anyone to kind of use. So check that out if you're interested in some deep learning. We're not going to do a whole example, but they're all here. And then I think an example of this we kind of mentioned before is Uber.
Yeah, and Microsoft Cognitive Services is built off of the Cognitive Toolkit. Is that right? So
yeah, a lot of I don't know about all of the API cognitive services, but I think most of them, if not all.
Okay, cool. So Uber uses cognitive services then?
Yeah. So there's the safety concern of getting into cars that you don't know the person that's driving you, or ensuring. Uber had the problem of making sure that the person who is driving is actually the person who was cleared to drive. And so when they sign up to become an Uber driver, they have to take a selfie, and I don't think it's every time they get in the car to start driving, but I think it's every once in a while they have to verify that they are who they say they are, and so they use the Microsoft Cognitive Toolkit to do so, and it's the API where you saw those two guys, and we did it
matching
on ours, and just trying to match. It's not perfect. For example, if someone shaves their facial hair, or if someone gets a haircut, or whatever, it could not let them drive. But
hopefully, you're training it with thousands and thousands of images or millions of images so that it gets more precise.
Yeah, as it gets better, the API, as that API gets better, it might be able to handle someone changing the way they look. Or maybe the driver just has to give Uber a call and say, hey, I need to take a new selfie.
Yeah.
Another kind of cool example of AI and application, or I guess machine learning, is CoreLogix. It's just an app. They have an application that kind of plugs into your software and analyzes your logs and helps you not only detect errors, but it recognizes abnormal activity and helps software teams narrow in on what the problem file or files or code is. It helps debugging easy. It makes debugging easier. And this is actually built on top of the data analytics platform that Microsoft has, I believe.
Cool. And I think this is really interesting too, because in our conversation we've kind of left out IT a little bit, but there are a ton of opportunities for IT that you can use, like finding abnormal behaviors, being proactive before errors occur. And I think that's definitely a part that can be used or a department as well in an enterprise. Yeah,
exactly. And then we kind of have, so I did mention the data analytics platform, kind of this idea where you take your data, it's stored somewhere, whether it's in a SQL database or some other relational one, or an unstructured Cosmos DB, and you apply machine learning or artificial intelligence to that data, and you expose it to your end users, or it's in an automated system. And I think the biggest use case we see oftentimes is in reporting, where we see Power BI and people wanting to move from those static reports to these dynamic ones where they can expose the data in a safe way to other employees or other people in your enterprise. And again, we see the cognitive services and the bot framework here that can be easily incorporated into your applications. And I guess Power BI can too, with Power BI embedded. That makes it really easy to make very cool visuals inside an application, whether it's a web app or some other type of interface.
Yeah.
So that movement from data to automated action is super easy with the analytics platform.
And I think maybe, so we have a demo after this, right?
Yes, we're gonna. we're going to talk about one of your favorite shows next. Do you have anything to say about this first?
Yes. So before we do that, we have so much time. So I think it might actually be useful. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you have any good other examples of how companies that you've worked with have used AI or used data analytics, or enterprises maybe?
Yeah.
That could kind of help to kind of generate some ideas.
Yeah. So I guess off the top of my head, I got a pretty good example of machine learning.
Yeah.
Where we actually have worked with several different law firms now, where one of the biggest pain points, I guess, for law firms, I don't know from experience, just from what people have told me when I've worked with them, is their billing process, right? So lawyers, obviously, they cost quite a bit of money, and they have to track their time very, very precise and very well, and they usually have some type of internal application where they type in a description of what they did, when they did it, who the account was for, who am I billing, and then they always have to associate that time with a specific time code. There's tons of them, and so after they kind of submit that, they press enter, and it goes into a database, and at the month end, or whenever they do, they aggregate all those times and create a bill for a customer. Mm-hmm. If anything is kind of incorrect on that, for example, the customer can see, the lawyer did this, so they see the exact description field and the time code. If the customer kind of looks over and says, this description doesn't match this time code, they can reject that. Mm-hmm. And so they can reject the entire bill if one line is incorrect. And lawyers are not often, or sometimes are not very good at doing so, and tracking your time is kind of annoying at times and a nuance, but they often, I guess, pick similar time codes over and over, and so being able to automate that and make predictions. So we were able to write some machine learning R scripts inside SQL Server 2016 to really to make those predictions and to automate that. So the billing process is super easy for them. One company we worked with actually spun up an R server. A Microsoft R server is this enterprise class server. You can have a cluster of them. Usually for development, you're only going to have one machine, but if you're going to put this in production and need some massive compute, the R server allows you to write R code and deploy that code as a web service. And so it's just an API that you can incorporate into your application, and it'll just return predictions for you. And so they spun that up, connected their application to it, and as the lawyer is typing in the description, mm-hmm. there's recommendations on which time code it is.
Oh, interesting.
And so while I think the accuracy of the model was only around 70% for the top one. Mm-hmm. That's kind of what we see. But for the top three, saying it's likely one of these three time codes, yeah, that's somewhere around 95. And so making sure we had the right code to say, hey, it's the top three here. Is it one of these? And then if they say no, we give them the whole list and they have to pick from that. But something as easy as that, one, saves a lawyer time, because all they have to do is type in what they did. Mm-hmm. It analyzes it on the spot, and then it puts it into the system. And since whoever, again, it's probably a lawyer afterwards, has to kind of come up with those bills and review it, if the bills are correct, it goes a lot faster than if they have to make a lot of changes.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and that kind of reminds me that even things like billing, that could be an applicable opportunity for enterprises that have to go through a lot of invoices, and you could have predictions like time codes or whatever you use for billing to use AI for that.
Exactly, and so that's just one example. There's the possibilities are endless with AI and machine learning, and kind of just getting your feet wet somehow is really important, whether that's with the cognitive services or maybe you're a programmer and you develop in C#. maybe try out Python or R and try to do some type of 101 lab and do an analytics.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the nice part about Microsoft's AI platform, at least for me, because I don't have a data science background, it's nice to be able to just kind of start trying things out without needing to learn the back end like R for me.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, another great spot would be Azure Machine Learning. I don't think we're showing it today.
No.
But we have a lot of resources that kind of do hands-on labs with Azure ML, and again, my email will be at the end, but if anyone wants to go through those Azure Machine Learning labs, then I can send them over. You just shoot me an email at the end of this.
Yeah.
And it's a quick way to start writing intelligent applications or incorporating intelligence into your apps.
And with that, go ahead.
Oh, your favorite show?
Maybe.
So Sachi is a big fan of the popular HBO show.
I'm not quite sure if that's accurate, but continue. Yeah.
It's called Silicon Valley, and apparently in that show there's an episode where there's this investor, and if you're a popular fan, you might know this better than me. Sachi's the one who saw this, and
sure.
And apparently there's this investor. He invested a ton of money in this startup, and the startup's goal was, he thought, to develop an algorithm to identify any object in any picture. And so he gets to the meeting, and they have it, and they put up a hot dog image, and it says, oh, it's a hot dog. And then they put up a pizza or whatever, and it says not hot dog. And the investor at first, when he just saw the hot dog, was like, oh, this is awesome, and freaked out. But when he saw not hot dog, he's like, wait, this didn't identify pizza. Like, this is lame. And he's like, all it does is tell me when there's a hot dog.
Or not a hot dog.
Yeah, or not a hot dog. And so that's the thing. It identifies two things, hot dogs and not hot dogs. But the cool thing was, I don't know if it was HBO or if it was the creators of the show, they actually made that app.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I believe you can download it from an app store and actually do it. And it took them 3 months to build, right? So that's a decent amount of time to build an app.
Yep.
However, we can kind of develop something pretty quick here.
Yeah, we can use Microsoft Cognitive Services to create this demo in only a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Speaking of accessibility of things you can try.
Yeah, so there's
build this too.
There's a custom vision.ai. I logged in with my my work account, and it kind of brings you to this project page, and I can click on project and just say not hot dog. Where I want to identify images that are hot dogs. And, this is just a demo. I'll put demo, and you can do whatever you want. I'm just going to use general because I never know what the not hot dog is.
Oh, that makes sense.
So it could be a person, it could be food, so I'll just go with general. After it creates, it kind of takes you to this. And so the neat thing is, while sometimes with training AI and machine learning and deep learning models, it's a lot of coding, and that can be kind of difficult. And that's why we suggest things like Azure Machine Learning for people who are beginning this data science process. They give you a great interface to just upload images. So if I go to my desktop, I have a hot dog file. Yes, I downloaded these. And I'm going to select all the hot dogs except for one. So my model will train on, I think it's 10 images. So there's a test hot dog here. And I'm going to open them and upload these up, and I'm going to label it hot dog. So here we see it's done. We want to add more images. We are again browse to that same file, and we have not hot dogs. At the end, I have a test one. I think it's sushi down there. And actually, I'm not going to upload the carrot. So I'm going to do, I think it's still 10 images where it's dogs and shoes, and open it and do not hot dog. Again, like, we're doing this super fast. It took them months, 3 months to build, and we're about to do it in just a couple seconds. It feels like, or maybe a minute or two, I don't know.
Right.
And so here we have, it does a great job. It can predict and it's all ready to go, and now we can test it.
So what's the recall mean?
I'd have to look at the exact definition. This recall is, I do know where you want it. You do want it closer to 100%. They actually translate these percentages from, you know, it's usually between 0 and 1, but they just translate to 100. I can't remember what recall means off the top of my head. It's something with a, I'd have to look at the exact
definition. I wonder if that's the likelihood of it predicting it.
It takes in, I think, something with accuracy and prediction, and does some type of weighting.
That would make sense.
Can't remember off the top of my head, but we can test out our model, and so.
Sweet. So we went ahead and trained it so that it will be able to better recognize what's a hot dog and what's not a hot dog based on the tags that we gave them.
Yeah, and so here, this is the image we didn't train on it. We just kind of had it there, so we can open it up, and boom, it's a hot dog.
Nice.
One thing, and then I guess here we can browse files and say, let's give it not a hot dog. We're going to upload some sushi, it looks like, and not hot dog. Oh, that's actually not very good. So our model didn't do great there. That's actually pretty surprising to me.
So if we wanted to increase the probability of it recognizing, we would just put in more images and train it with more
Exactly.
images.
So maybe next time I would want to put this into my model so it would recognize it's not a hot dog.
Okay.
Again, we only use 10 images. Right. You would ideally want to use millions of images, or at least thousands, or I don't know, hundreds. One thing funny about this, and I can't remember if this happened in the show or not. Again, you might know.
Sure.
Is if you upload a carrot, it actually believes it's a hot dog. It can't recognize the difference. Again, though, it's just like you pointed out. This is a point where then, you know, I go download 10 carrot images and say it's not a hot dog, and it's going to recognize it.
Right.
So just, even though like your first iteration, you might not get great results, it's that put more data in, keep retraining, keep tweaking your model, and it'll get there. As long as there's correlations in your data, you can make predictions, you can automate decisions, and you can expose your enterprise to this artificial intelligence explosion. And that's
a good way to phrase it.
It's really what's happening right now. There's not really a huge way to change it. Again, that was you know, again, the customvision.ai. I have seen images, this same demo done with Coca-Cola and Pepsi.
Oh, that makes sense.
Being able to recognize the different cans and whatever else. Just kind of cool little tool.
And this uses cognitive services. So you could just plug this in with your application today if you wanted to use it at your enterprise.
Yeah, this is deep learning made super easy.
Yes.
So yeah, and then I think if we go back to this, we have our demo, and we're actually probably going to finish up a little bit early here. So if anyone has any questions, we'll actually take them, and you can put them in the chat.
And while you're doing that, let's just finish up with this slide, just talking about next steps, because I think for a lot of people, you know, topics like AI are really interesting, and they are the new buzzword, things like that. But it's important to understand how you can actually implement it and get started, because, you know, you might come out of this webcast really excited to try it out, but then you ask yourself, you know, how do I get started? So
yeah, I guess so. One of the first things I ask a lot of our customers when we first start is, what's a business problem you have now? What's something that hinders your business or is a big pain point in your organization? And is there data that you believe can help solve that problem, right? So I don't know their data, so we kind of have to explore with them and understand that. And usually those if they come up with saying, this is our problem and this is the data we think can do it, we can then come up with a solution to make predictions and really put things in production to solve that pain point, or at least reduce the amount of pain.
So maybe it's kind of twofold of figuring out what the business problem that you want to address or what the business challenge is, and then figuring out, do you have data, or
so
do you
it really
need to get data?
Really starts in the business. Obviously, that's why you do AI, is for your business, or maybe it's you're just interested. But you want to identify those things where AI can be used, whether it's in an application. I hear we have a new or existing application, but it can even be in a reporting or you know, any other type of thing. And once you identify those, try to incorporate a cognitive service. Maybe that can solve it. I'm not sure, or maybe it's just a cognitive service is a cheap and quick way to display that, and it already enhances something that is already pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of APIs, so if you needed something like text analytics, that might help you out, or if you want to use other of their APIs, you can just implement those without having too much background of data science.
Exactly, and then implement it and try to see how does it do. You just got to test it out and see, does it help my application, does it help my business? If not, you don't need to use it. And then if you're really ready, try some deep learning. Those can be a little bit more difficult to use, and maybe you don't know the exact scenario when to use deep learning versus machine learning. But experiment. That's what data scientists do, or at least try to do. Thanks you guys for attending our webcast. If there's, again, any questions, email me or Sachi, or even client services.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to be doing another webcast in about a week. I believe the topic is using AI to understand your customers.
Yep.
So, you know, I have a customer base. How can I understand them? Not necessarily how can I make their experience better. That should be the third one, I think, is how can I improve my customer's experience. And the final one is building AI into your applications, or into your business.
Yep.
Can't remember the exact. You might know. But please join those as well.
Yeah, this one's kind of just an intro, and so the next one will be a deeper dive of how you can use it internally.
Thank you.
Thanks.